Dear friends, greetings from New York. Today, our guest is our comrade colleague, a person who has been involved in this almost since childhood. Bilkar, Vice President of the International Academy of Ecology, a person with three higher education degrees: chemist, lawyer, and economista, practicing healer with truly impressive and remarkable results. Our guest's name is Alexander Matsievsky, and I give him the floor to share what he does and what interesting results he achieves. Alexander, welcome.
Yes, hello, Sophia. I'm glad to hear from you, and I greet everyone who is watching this program. So, briefly about myself, my name is Alexander Matsievsky. I have been involved in alternative medicine for a long time, more than 40 years. I am a hereditary herbalist, and all my life I have dreamed of creating a remedy that could heal people without the need for various complex forms of the same herbs, so to speak, different roots and everything else. And so 25 years ago, I managed to achieve this and created what is now called the healing elixir. In English, this is healing elixir, an amazing formula that delivers simply incredible results. In other words, we're talking about treatment ranging from the common flu to autoimmune diseases, cancer, and other such serious illnesses where traditional medicine gives up or more rarely resorts to radiation methods, chemotherapy, and everything else. Actually treats these conditions in a rather fast and effective way. That is to say, it usually takes 2 or 3 courses of about a month each, and many problems are resolved. So that's it in short.
Alexander, how did all of this even start for you?
Well,
You are a hereditary herbalist. Tell us about your ancestors and what you have inherited from them.
yes, that's indeed a very interesting story. At 15,
Alexander?
yes. At the age of 15, as they say, this fate befell me. And so you could say I started getting involved at 15. That is, I had been gathering these herbs with my grandmother for a long time, and she would tell me everything. But when I turned 15, she decided to pass on all her knowledge to me because, so to speak, she was preparing to leave us and said, "You will take care of all these things," because my sister was still very young. So to speak, now you are taking the baton and we'll continue on. My grandmother is a fourth generation herbalist. So actually, I am a fifth generation herbalist, but that's as far back as we remember, because everything before that has been rewritten for us. Unfortunately, our history has been interrupted. So while, for example, some Caucasian or Asian people know their ancestry back 7 generations, we unfortunately stopped remembering who our ancestors were, what they did, and how they lived about 200 years ago. Maybe only if the family, so to speak, can be trusted, and even that is very difficult. In other words, reconstructing a family tree is not so easy. You see, 44 years ago, my grandmother passed all this down to me, and half a year later, they say she was gone. And so I actually had to start treating people from a young age, from my adolescence. That is, men would come with various illnesses, starting from simple allergies and all sorts of other conditions. In other words, I would give them herbs. My grandmother, of course, had tried many things, so there was an abundance of everything. And women also came with various gynecological issues, and I treated them as well because I had everything written down in my notebooks, and so to speak, I already understood and knew a lot of things. So, in short, that's the situation. And later on, so to speak, I underwent specialized training with renowned healers who practice healing in Altai, in Siberia, in those remote regions. In other words, I was with many people who also practiced healing, and we exchanged information with each other. And I was learning because, of course, in one region there are certain herbs, and in other regions there are different ones. This truly had its effect later on when creating this remarkable elixir. And so 25 years ago, I found this formula in order to create exactly such a remedy, which in a short period of time, because if you treat with herbs, it takes half a year, sometimes a year and a half, that is to cure something normally, any kind of illness, not to mention oncology and other diseases, that's even more difficult. But this method literally gives very fast results from 2 to, let's say, 6 months. That's the maximum period. So that's more or less how things stand.
Alexander, does your elixir have any effect on microbial, viral, and fungal diseases? Or what can you say in this matter?
Yes. My preparation, although I call it a preparation, of course, that's more for clarity. Basically, this remedy is meant to solve many problems. That is, if we go by some of the more general and widely used terms that traditional medicine employs, these are the so-called immunomodulators. But here, the effect is broader because this remedy not only has an immunostimulating or immunomodulating effect, but it also truly fights effectively against various types of viruses, bacteria, fungi, and other similar organisms. In other words, this is a remedy that contains in its formula many extracts from both herbs and seaweeds, flax extract, Irish peat extract. This is also an amazing formula that makes it possible to address everything in a comprehensive way, to cleanse the body, to rejuvenate the cells, and also the person themselves. There are already many serious and impressive results that clearly show that many important functions of the body are being restored. Significant rejuvenation occurs, and as many people say, this truly delivers fantastic and exceptional results.
Alexander, on your Telegram profile, I was actually impressed by a truly interesting, unusual, and memorable case of a finger being reattached. Please tell us about that.
Yes, the elixir really has a remarkable ability to heal wounds and relieve pain, acting as an anesthetic. And this is undoubtedly an amazing result. There are already dozens of cases where healing of wounds, cuts, punctures, incisions, and even gunshot wounds has been observed. In other words, this has already been tested. It works literally within a matter of hours, so to speak. Why? Because today there are many remedies in the world. By the way, one of these remedies is American. I don't actually remember the exact name of it now, but it usually heals within approximately 3 to 7 days. I personally tried it, as did my colleagues in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. They also tested and compared it. And here the result shows that my remedy leads to healing within a single day. Even in, so to speak, serious cases like diabetes, and even in such scenarios. Why? With diabetes, wounds heal very slowly, everyone knows that. But here, literal miracles happen. That is, in people whose wounds simply would not heal. By the way, I just remembered, it's also called Berberex. It's a good remedy. I wanted to share one of these remarkable cases. A person cut off about 25% of their thumb, meaning that this was completely separated. He treated it, put me on speakerphone so I could advise him on what to do. You drip it directly onto the wound. That is, you treat it the same way wounds are treated in a clinic. You use the elixir in exactly the same way. He put that piece back on, so to speak, along with the nail. In practice, this meant that 25% of his thumb was missing, but I advised him that everything needed to align so that the nail would be in its proper place. The body will take care of the rest, finding its capillaries, and so to speak, everything will fuse together where it should. And indeed, he bandaged it, and in the morning he unwrapped the bandage. By then, there was practically no bruising left. Usually, there is what's called a blood stripe, as they say, but here the skin was already new, and that was it. So he treated it once more, bandaged it again, and after another day, removed the bandage. There was, so to speak, nothing left at all, not even, so to speak. Well, of course, there was a slight line, like a seam, but it was insignificant. Literally a month later, there was neither seam nor anything else left. So here we observe a skin regeneration effect that is several times stronger and faster than in other cases when using similar products. That's how it is. I wanted to explain how the elixir is produced because the production technology differs from those used today in pharmaceuticals and other industries. Here, technologies without thermal processing are used, along with unique extraction methods. In other words, they make it possible for the product to have a high concentration and strong effect. So in this case, these concentrates contain about 20% dry matter, and these are very significant figures because then large doses are not required, just a few drops, literally 1, 2, 3, up to 5 or 8 drops. In practice, an exceptionally good healing effect for many illnesses is achieved even with the very first dose. So this is the very first point. And the second point is that the herbs and the other ingredients we use in our production are truly environmentally pure. And most importantly, all of this is done without the use of chemicals or heat treatment, because heat treatment above 45 degrees already leads to the destruction of many vitamins, and after that, the microelements and everything else are also broken down. The integrity of the product of the medicinal plants is compromised. That's why this is one of the most important things here. No, of course, we absolutely do not want to compete with the pharmaceutical industry or with a wide variety of medical preparations. But how should I put it? The use of our medicinal herbs and everything else really gives people the opportunity to choose whether to try what the doctor prescribes or to use those methods that have literally existed for, let's say, the last 20 to 50 years and our ancestors. Modern medicine has existed for only, some say 160 years, others say 220 years. It doesn't matter, still it's only 200 years. So before that, we also treated ourselves in some way, and it is precisely these methods of using medicinal remedies or some extracts or infusions or something similar. But in the past, there weren't such technological capabilities to carry out such complex processes and to obtain such extract, yes.